Welcome to RuralStrong, where we talk real challenges and bold solutions in rural economic development. I'm your host, Joe Barker. Let's get into it. Welcome to RuralStrong. This is your podcast host, Joe Barker, and we're coming to you today from the Southwest Tennessee Development District podcast studio in beautiful downtown Jackson, Tennessee. And lots of times on these podcasts, it's the first time I've met our guest, but that's not the case today. I've got a good friend as our guest on RuralStrong today, and we have lots of things in common. And our guest is Paul Rosson, who serves as the Executive Director of the South Central Tennessee Development District, which their office is actually located in Murray County. And just like I'm a development district director, our jobs are very similar. And even other than that, I'm a former county mayor, and Paul is a former county mayor. So we're going to get into that part of our lives in a moment. But Paul, first of all, welcome to RuralStrong.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to our discussion.
Paul, tell our listeners a little bit about your background. I know you've had a very varied background in the things you've done. You've been a local elected official, and now you're running a regional organization. So bring our folks up to date on your background and what has brought you to your current position today.
Sure, Joe. Thank you for that question. I grew up in the small town of Loretta, Tennessee, right on the close to the Alabama border. Had the opportunity to go to started my career at Columbia State Community College. Like a lot of people in our area, I was the first one to go to college. Just a tremendous value and asset to have a community college there in Loretta. Well, not in Loretta, but at Lawrenceburg and here in Columbia. From there, I went to the University of North Alabama, which was just south of where I grew up. Out of college, I was fortunate enough to get a job with our local district attorney. There, I served as a court coordinator and then a division administrator with General Bottoms. Learned an awful lot about the law, learned an awful lot about politics, and an awful lot about just being a good community member from General Bottoms. He's a great mentor of mine. And then from there, I had the opportunity to actually go work for Columbia State Community College. I taught there in the criminal justice program, also taught some at UNA. I ran a workforce program there with community economic development. And that really is kind of what got me started in the realm of economic development or community development was with Dr. Paul Jennings. I know you know Dr. Jennings there at the Center for Industrial Services. Sure. One of the best bosses I've ever had. So I'm going to give Dr. Jennings a shout out here this morning. And really, I got to where I didn't like the direction our county was going. As we looked at the leadership was there, and then I chose as a 36-year-old kid really to run for county mayor. And for whatever reason, the citizens of Lawrence County elected me, Joe, this kid. And I felt like, again, I was on a mission to create jobs and enhance our community. We did an awful lot of things while I was in office. And the old saying goes, though, don't build a new city hall if you want to get reelected. And that would be a good lesson to any of the mayors out there that are listening. Wait till your second term to do that. But one of the things we did when I was in office there is that we were able to get our industrial site certified deal ready through MTIDA. And I'll give those guys a shout out too. They were awesome to work with during my time there. Anyway, I become unelected, as we all sometimes do. I had the fortune then to go to the Department of Finance Administration in Nashville. I worked there about 6 years under Bill Scollin, a really good friend of mine, a great director there with OCJP. Traveled the state monitoring and auditing grant programs. Gave me a great insight into how grants work on the backside of things at the state level and somewhat at the federal level. And from there, I went to, after about 6 years there, the executive director position opened up at South Central Human Resource Agency. And I served almost 9.5 years there as that director there. And there's a lot of interplay between our two agencies. And then finally, about a year or so ago, the executive director retired from here at the development district. And I really just wanted to come home. My heart is more in economic development and community infrastructure, as well as the aging program. I really developed a heart for the aging program when I was at the Human Resource Agency, and particularly the Meals on Wheels program. I'm a strong advocate for that. And we look to partner with any organization out there that does that type of service. So, Joe, that may be more than you wanted to hear this morning, but that's Paul Rosson in a nutshell.
No, and I think, in all our lives, our experiences is what makes us the person that we are today. And for our listeners, if somebody asks you what's the basic difference between a human resource agency and a development district, and since you've been the executive director of both, what is the main difference?
I would say, Joe, the HRA is primarily set up to deliver a series of social services. They're the boots on the ground. For example, they're the ones who will actually cook the meals. In a particular instance, when I said the Meals on Wheels, they will actually cook those meals, gather up those volunteers to make sure those get out to the homebound. And so, but here at the development district, we're more of a planning agency. I think we're more of writing those grants, working more hand in hand with our local governments to fund. One's more going to be social services, safety net programs versus where we're here at the development district, although we do have that with our aging program, but we're also more about the economic development side of things, creating jobs, putting infrastructure into place, working more hand in hand with our cities and counties on, getting their sewer, gas, and water and their industrial sites ready for industry.
And I think being a local elected official, which both of us have been, really prepares us, I think, for stepping into a role in a regional organization. A lot of our listeners, when I mentioned the fact that I was a former county mayor in a lot of the states, certainly there's no such animal as a county mayor. Everybody's familiar with a city mayor and the basic responsibilities of a city mayor. I guess my question to you is, Paul, and I'll tell you my thoughts on it. Once you got elected county mayor, what was the one thing probably that you didn't expect as a first-time local elected official?
That's a great question, Joe. I'll be honest with you. It took me about 3 months to realize I was the mayor. I'd always had a boss on top of me, meaning that I always felt this I won't call it limitation, but also at the same time there was this protection. If you didn't know an answer, if you didn't, or you needed direction, you always had someone to go ask. When I worked for General Bottoms, General, do we need to be doing this? Do we need to be doing that? And for the first time in my life, I guess that I was that person. And yes, we do have the county commissions to be accountable to, and then the citizenry, but you're the person whose hopes and dreams at that time, Lawrence County was about 40,000 people. The hopes and dreams of all those people are based upon your decisions. And yes, you have to get approval through county commissions and so forth. But when you went and got something approved, you had to make sure it got done. And I'll give you an example. We had a great big jail project that had just started when I took over. We also had school needs that had to be done, and then also on the industrial side. So when you come up with a plan and the idea, and then once you got it voted on and approved, that was put in your lap to make sure it got done. And there's oversight and so forth, but that enormous responsibility, I never saw it as a position of authority or power, because it's not, by no means, but it's an enormous amount of responsibility that will keep you up at night. But again, I was a young kid. I will cherish that time as county executive, the things that I learned that have taught me well in life, and then has also helped me now in this role, in this position. As you both know, we both work so hand in hand with elected officials daily. And a lot of the questions I get sometimes doesn't have anything to do about the district. It's something a new mayor will call you about, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And my answer is always, Joe, I can't tell you what to do, but I can probably tell you what not to do because I probably did it. So, but anyway, just joking aside, I think that would be the answer that I would give you on that.
How many county commissioners did you have when you were county mayor?
We had 18.
Okay, we had 20 in Hardin County, and I guess that was the biggest challenge I found out because I always, as I know you do, we serve 8 counties here in Southwest Tennessee, and we take all of their local papers, and most of their local papers are weekly papers. And when people run for office, I really enjoy looking at their advertisements, and we're all going to do great things. We're going to create jobs, and we're going to work on education and health care and all of these things that are important in our communities. And, Paul, I found out in a hurry that all these great things I wanted to do, there had to be 11 county commissioners, in my case, that had the same view that I did, or none of those things could happen. We talk about people that come from the business world into local government, and I came from the business world into local government. And at my local business, Paul, if I woke up that morning and thought I needed a new pickup truck that would help us provide better services to our customers, if I could find the money, by the end of the day, I could probably have a new pickup truck. But in local government, if we decide we need a new pickup truck, we might have one 2 months out after we go through the bid process and all the things we have to do. And you're exactly right. Actually, you work for the county commission essentially, even though you're elected. And so that relationship between the chief executive officer of the county and the county commission is so critical. And I think coming into our positions in regional organizations, we both have boards, and primarily those boards are made up of local elected officials. And our challenge is those local elected officials, Paul, change a lot.
Yes, sir.
Every 4 years we have county mayor elections in Tennessee. Traditionally, there's about a 50% turnover, and we have city mayors that serve on our boards, and of course their elections are staggered. But it's always trying to bring these folks up to speed on what we do. And I guess my question is when you get a new county mayor, and it won't be too many months before both of us will have some new county mayors, how do you transition them into what you actually do at the development district?
That is a great question, Joe. And I know the state ECD has that same mindset every time we have elected officials change. But I think being a former mayor certainly helps. It builds almost instant credibility with those folks. And again, because they'll have so many questions, and you can relate to a lot of them, particularly the ones who want to come in and get something done. And then, as you said, we have to educate them on the speed of government. And that sounds like actually two things that are the opposite, but you do have to go through the procurement processes and so forth. But I think, you go out and meet with each one of them is very important. Try to sit down in each of them's office, particularly all the new ones. And then what we're doing, Joe, in September is actually having, we're calling a kind of a special meeting. It's already on our books to have those new mayors come so that we can introduce them, obviously, to the other mayors, but also talk about the role of the district. And as a new mayor, going back when I was first come on, and I remember Lori Fisher come to see me, one of the best grant writers in the nation. She doesn't like it when I call her that because it builds so much expectation. But Lori's done a wonderful job, and she came see me very early in my um, career there as the county mayor, and talked about all the things that the district did. And again, now that's my role, that's your role, is getting out there. But I think it's both being former elected officials. You build that almost immediate credibility. And we're there as a friend. Again, I get a lot of calls from mayors that a lot of times have nothing to do with the district, just things that they're facing, and whether it's a bond issue or whatever it is. But I think getting out there early, uh, educating them on the capabilities of what the district can do is vitally important to get them plugged in because, again, they know the needs of their community better than anyone else, and we want to be there as that asset and resource.
Well, and as you know, rural county mayors have very small staffs traditionally, and our development districts are just an extension of their office.
Absolutely, Joe.
And so I think that's the number one thing we have to impress on them is we work for you, and in reality, our only customers are the cities, towns, and the counties that are in our particular region.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to something. I know you have a background in workforce development, and you're still working with workforce development in your present position. In rural areas, we never go to a meeting that we don't talk about the quality of our workforce and how we have to have that trained workforce to attract new jobs. What's the biggest challenge you see, Paul, in getting that good workforce in rural areas?
I think it's a great question, Joe. A lot of communities that you observe are desperate and complacent at the same time. And so I think you have to be able to show that there's a skill set there. And the other part I would say to that, I'm going to give you an example. Like you got Wayne, Perry County, Lewis County, Lawrence County, and Giles County right now are setting at location wise. You may not get that $2 billion company that's going to come into your area. But you know what? 35 minutes south, they just launched the submarine company down at Cherokee, Alabama, which is just right across the line down there. They're going to be looking for skilled welders and skilled people to build those modules. And then once those modules are built, they're going to be shipped down the river to Montgomery to be outfitted. So a lot of communities that are, you don't want to make necessarily your community a bedroom community, but a lot of times you don't have to have that big lick right there in your county. There's other opportunities in a couple of counties over, or for example, 30, 40 minutes down the road, there's a $2 billion company that just launched there at the Barton Industrial Park in Alabama. But the workforce is vitally important to develop those skill sets. The TCATs have been amazing. I got to compliment Governor Lee on what he has done with the TCATs across our state. And having those ready, for example, there in having TCATs there in Perry County, having one there in Lewis County, as well as the other counties across our 13 county area. And we do the American Job Centers here. We now have onboarded the entire process here at the Development District. And having that funding available to those rural communities is vitally important to building that workforce. And as you know, Joe, the number one thing when you're recruiting a company, they're going to know, is there a skilled labor force here? What's the tax impact? But mostly, how fast can they get their product to market? So when they come to build a new plant or to make an expansion, how quickly can we start producing this product, this item, so that we can start recapturing our capital investment?
And Paul, you've led really into my, I guess, next question, or really it's a statement, is we work for regional organizations, and to me, those regions that become successful are those regions that work together. And I will tell you, that's a real challenge sometimes, even though, we'll all stand up and we'll hold hands and we'll say we're going to work together as a region. Even though companies don't look at county lines, sometimes it's very difficult to get our regions to actually take on that attitude you were talking about, of that if there's a plant locates in the county next to me, I'm happy for them because some of our workforce will be able to go there and work, and vice versa if it locates in your county. What's your thoughts on how do we promote, I guess, better regionalism, a better way to work together?
That's a great question, Joe. I think I'm going to give you an example of what we're doing in our area, and obviously the other development districts working together. Again, we all meet monthly and discuss things. And I don't think there's a development district director or even an HRA director that we wouldn't work with if someone brought us a good idea. Just having and developing those relationships. I'm going to start there because that is the most crucial thing. I have the most respect for you, Joe, and people like Mark Farley and Lori and Anna, Tim. I'm going to, name everybody and everything here, but it starts with us having that respect amongst the directors, and also the specific I'm going to give you in our 13 county area. The economic developers are very competitive in our area, as they should be. They want to land something in their community. But again, Lawrence County is not going to fight Murray County if, for example, let's say Murray County moves on to the next level and we get booted in Lawrence. We're going to champion Murray County to win that project because we know our people can come up here and get the jobs, and so forth across the line. But Anna Hosey is a economic developer in our area, and she's coming up with this idea, and actually it's a wonderful idea on the defense industry. And again, we're very strategically located, our 7 counties that border Alabama, because you've got Huntsville, Alabama down there that is a metropolis for the defense industry. And then what is, again, being built there in Cherokee, Alabama, we're forming a defense alliance amongst our 13 counties here at South Central Tennessee Development District. And this was just an idea that Anna came up with and asked if the district could help. And we said, absolutely, we will lead in any way we can. But we said, Anna, it was your idea. You should be the chairperson of this. So that's an example within our district that we're doing now. But at the same time, if Tennessee is battling for a company, each development district should, obviously, if you're trying to get it in your district or whatever, but if you get booted, we should be cheering the next development district to get that project. I think maybe that's a difference between and why, and maybe the reason that Tennessee has won a lot of projects is the cooperation between districts, and particularly, I can't say enough about ECD, and I'm going to give Brooksy Carlton a little shout out here too. They're one of the best agencies in the state. I'm going to go on a line and say they're the best agency in the state to work with, and they really rely on development districts, and we're glad to be partners with them.
Well, and everything you're talking about is relationships. I hope these folks, if you haven't, I'm on LinkedIn, and periodically I have an article that comes under Cup of Joe, and the last one I posted, I guess, was last week, and it was about relationships. And I look back on my career, and most everything I've been involved with was because of a relationship that was created somewhere. And you've talked about a regional economic cluster, and which is so important. We look up at in East Tennessee, where they're known for a lot of things, but one thing that they are particularly known for is the area around Oak Ridge and that nuclear cluster that they have created up there. And we've talked about in West Tennessee, particularly with Blue Oval City announcing here, and we've had several battery plants that have located in West Tennessee that, maybe the battery cluster is what is our niche, and not only the plants themselves, but getting research and development to locate in our region. And Paul, I think that developing regional clusters is probably the key to survival for many of our rural areas.
Absolutely, Joe. There's an old saying that if the change going on outside is greater than the change going on inside, the end is in sight. So you've got to be up with what the market's doing and trying to anticipate what the next thing is. And a lot of times government is behind the curve on that. But I think it's, vitally important. As you said, Oak Ridge is getting ready to have a kind of a rebirth or new renaissance in nuclear over there. Governor Lee has done a good job of championing that. Southern Middle Tennessee is probably one of the hottest economic areas in the state. And then you guys got Blue Oval City over there in your side over there as a major investment. So I believe you're absolutely right with that, Joe.
Let's in the time we've got left, let's talk a little bit about development districts. And what do you see, Paul, if you looked out 5 years, 10 years, what's the greatest challenge you see for organizations like ours?
I think we've got to do a better job, and I said this at the Human Resource Agency all the time too, is that we've got to stop being the best kept secret. We've got to show, and I'll be honest with you, when I came here to the district about a year ago, I asked them, I said, what's the total dollar amount in grants that we're administering right now? And it was $140 million, Joe. And honestly, they didn't even know they were managing that level of grants. Now, again, they were doing a good job, but they didn't know the total sum of that. And I'm like, we need to be showcasing all these projects that we're doing across these 13 counties. And you ain't got to be boastful about it, but man, there are some great projects that are going on in our district right now. And, we landed a company called Little Leaf Farms over in Tullahoma. Again, shout out to Mayor Hunt and Annie over there. But I think we've got to do a better job telling our story so that the people at the federal level understand exactly how important development districts are. I think we're going to be celebrating our 55th year coming up. It's either this year or the next, Joe. But I think we got to make sure that the stakeholders and the people understand the value of what development districts are. When I was a young kid, I knew what the value of a development district was because the Community Development Block Grant brought municipal water to our home. And as I was as high school senior when it happened, but there were many times we'd wake up and the well, the pump wasn't working, and you'd have to go to school and take a shower or whatever. But the importance of CDBG and that person writing that grant and getting folks water is just telling that story is where we need to be going with the development districts. And again, it's not being boastful. It's just telling what you're doing and showcasing not just to our stakeholders, but the public in general, what a development district is.
And I agree 100%, Paul. Traditionally, through the years, development districts, regional councils, or whatever they're called in each individual state, we know that we're the organization that works with the local elected officials, and it's always our job to put that local elected official out front. But at the same time, people need to know how important our organizations really are. And I want to compliment you on something since you've come into office. I see that you are truly taking advantage of social media. I love the things you are putting out there and there. Not only do you recognize your employees, but you recognize your individual communities for successes they have. And I just think, Paul, that with today's technology and today's social media, that's the key to being able to get our message out.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all, Joe. I think, and it's very economical. Yes, we have a person on staff that's primarily her role, but she does a whole lot of other things here at the district. Sydney Brewer is the person. I'm going to give her the accolades for that. She also serves as my executive assistant amongst many other titles, but she's primarily the reason for that. And she has a background in it, and I think it's important for development districts to have that person again, so that they can highlight those projects and show again to our elected officials, both locally, state, and particularly on the federal level, how important that funding is and how it helps rural communities. And you want to keep rural strong, as your slogan is with your program. You've got to invest in rural communities, and CDBG, EDA, all the other acronyms are vitally important to stay funded. And so thank you for that, Joe. And I thank you for noticing that, because we have put a lot of energy into that.
Well, it is noticeable, and sorry to say we're out of time, because I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Paul, because we've been down life's path, very similar path we've taken, and I want to compliment you and your organization on the great job you're doing in South Central Tennessee. And what I want to do, Paul, is I want to have you come back, and we'll take just a couple of subjects, and we'll get a little more in the weeds about those, about your thoughts on those. But again, thanks for taking the time to be with us today on Rural Strong.
Joe, thank you very much. And Joe, thank you for your friendship.
Thank you. Paul Rosson has been our guest, and I remind everyone, if you've got any questions or comments, you can always reach us at ruralstrong@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us on Rural Strong. If you found this helpful, share it, and follow the show for more insights from rural leaders making a real difference. Until next time, stay rural strong.